Welcome to Time with Theresa Around the World, bringing you up close and personal conversations with Christian leaders, authors, artists, filmmakers, talents, and celebrities from across the globe. Theresa and her guests are sure to warm your heart and encourage your soul. And now, your host, Theresa Westbrook.
Hello to our television, radio, and podcast audiences. We're so glad you're joining us. Our featured guest today is Dr. Lisa Burkhardt Worley. Early on in her career, Lisa was a national and local sportscaster on several mainstream networks. Today, Dr. Lisa is a television host, an award-winning author, and a documentary film producer. Wow! What a privilege to have you with us on the program, Dr. Lisa.
Well, thank you so much. And you can just call me Lisa, Theresa. We're friends. And so it is great to be on your show again. I really always love talking with you. And we have such an important topic today.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And before we get deeper into this interview, would you go ahead and share briefly about your doctoral experience?
Sure. I never thought I would get a doctor of ministry. My dad was a physician, but I thought it was unattainable for me. And I didn't really know that I had the desire. I had a master's in theological studies. And I thought, well, that's enough for what I'm doing. But sure enough, I had this desire to learn Hebrew. And so I didn't take it in my master's program. And so I started looking around for a Hebrew class. So I went on the King's University website, and I saw that they not only did they have a Hebrew class, but they had some very cool classes on Judaism. And I really lost a lot of that because my Jewish dad died before I was born. I didn't grow up understanding it or celebrating feasts and festivals or any of the Jewish traditions. And so I thought, well, this would be interesting. Maybe I could find out about what I didn't know, growing up. But I thought people would talk me out of a doctoral program. I asked my friends what they thought. They said, well, Lisa, it just seems like this is where God has been leading you. And then I talked to my husband, who I thought I knew actually that he would say no. And he did not. He said, sounds like a good idea. So I entered the doctoral program at the King's University. I had a bunch of bridge work to do, but I'm glad I took it because one of the classes changed the course of my life. It was an antisemitism class, and I knew I had to fight it. And so that is really, I learned so much in the program, and it was just one of the best decisions that I've ever made to go into the doctoral program at King's.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, now, just briefly tell us, you do have Jewish roots and you've written about it in a book. And so share just a little bit more about that with our audience.
Yeah, my Jewish father died 2 months before I was born of a massive heart attack. He was a polo player, a physician, and he played polo on the weekends for just recreation, actually competitively as well. And so one day he dropped dead. My mom was pregnant with me, so I never knew him. But I did know a little bit about our Jewish family. It was the Adler family out of Chicago, and the Adler great uncle, I guess it's great uncle, gave the Adler Planetarium to the city of Chicago. And there's just some really deep roots. And so I've always cherished those roots, even though I didn't really know a lot of my Jewish family. And so I wrote this book called The Root That Never Died about my return back to my Jewish heritage. And usually what you have is maybe a Jewish person discovering that Yeshua, it was the Messiah. They find this out. They believe that Jesus existed, but they don't think he was the Messiah. And so some people do come to faith in Yeshua. But I'm the opposite. I believe in Yeshua, but I have returned to my Jewish roots. And so those two worlds are colliding like this. And I've learned so much. And so I wrote this book for a Jewish friend who was sick, and she thought she had a cancer, but she didn't. And it was a scare. But I wrote to her about not only my story, but had some proof of Jesus in the Old Testament. And I had testimonies in this book called The Root That Never Died of Jewish people who had come to faith in Yeshua, including Jonathan Cahn. I'd interviewed him on a radio show, and I just took the transcript and put it in there. And so it's a really interesting book, I think. And I wrote it during the pandemic. What else do you do in the pandemic? You're homebound, so you write a book. And so that's what I did to help her, but also to help other people.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, if one will go to your website, I find it very interesting that how all the dots are connecting and how your journey and how your ties to your Jewish identity is the common thread for your ministry and all your media projects.
Yes, it has really taken off. We've now done 4 documentaries, but 3 of those to fight anti-Semitism. And that was definitely a call of God, because I have a media background. I was a sportscaster for 20 years on, national and local television, thought I was done with it, but God brought me back. And of course, we do a TV show like this one, radio, and then these documentaries. Once I took the anti-Semitism class, I knew that I had to do something to fight anti-Semitism. So we began producing the documentary. So yes, it seems like even with my blogs and things I write, I'm an Old Testament girl, and I really love to find truths in the Old Testament. And I do a lot of that. And I really think it has something to do with my Jewish roots. Very involved in Jewish ministries at my church. A lot of places do not have Jewish ministries. One of the reasons I'm there is because of the Jewish ministries. And I lead the prayer group, the Jewish prayer, which includes intercessory, pre-service. We also have altar prayer. And so, it's really my privilege to serve in that way, as well as managing our ministry.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I know there isn't any way we can share all your amazing projects in this short interview, but I do want to discuss your most recent award-winning documentary, Their Blood Cries Out. But before we do, please take just briefly a little bit of time and set up the trailer we're about to see.
Well, as I said, all of these documentaries have supernatural backgrounds. And so I was attending an Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy at the University of Oxford the last 2 summers, 2-week class with some of the leading scholars on anti-Semitism across the world. And I met a gentleman named Marcus Roberts who was there, and he's preserving the graves on the island of Alderney. Now, we had just released Terror in Toulouse, Has the Community Recovered? That's another documentary that we've done about a situation where 3 children were killed at a Toulouse Jewish high school and a religious instructor. So he knew about that, and he said, "Why don't you do a documentary on me, Lisa?" And I just said, haha, I just released this other one. I said, maybe Marcus we'll take a look at it, maybe, and perhaps we'll do it, but I don't know right now. And so I kept that in mind, though. And then later, after that institute, another woman, she's a Middle East terrorism expert that attended. I had befriended her, and she actually said, she sent me a WhatsApp message, and she said, "Do you know Father Patrick Dubois?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, you should do a documentary on him." And so I looked at his work, and he's been preserving the graves of the Holocaust for the last 20 years. He's been finding the mass graves. He interviewed Holocaust witnesses, Holocaust witnesses. And so he asked them what they saw. It was very, very impactful, and just sad to hear the stories. But so I kept that in mind as well. But 1 week after she said you should do a documentary on him, I got an email saying, "We don't know why you've been left off the emails for UT Dallas Holocaust studies, but we thought you might be interested in this speaker that they're bringing in." And it was Father Patrick Dubois. So a week after that, I went to hear him speak. I asked him if anyone had ever done a documentary on him. He said, "No, but we want one." So the wheels were in motion. We met and we made a plan. And so that's how that happened. And I thought of Marcus, and I thought Marcus does something similar by preserving the graves. And I thought, why wouldn't we put those two together? So we put those two together. We interviewed scholars on the Holocaust about Holocaust denial. Plus we have a Holocaust survivor in there, Rosie Zerner, a friend of ours who lives in Dallas. And we put all this together in one piece called Their Blood Cries Out. So that sets it up.
They're lying. As simple as that. They're distorting. They're denying.
It is shocking to many of us that anyone could deny the Holocaust in the face of literally tens of millions of pages of documents, tens of thousands of testimonies. You know, the evidence is overwhelming. And the answer is it's not about evidence. It's about Jew hatred.
This is an attack on the very foundations of the United States of America by Holocaust-denying murderers.
It's difficult to believe that anyone could deny the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews were brutally murdered by the Nazi regime. But two men in different parts of the world, Father Patrick Debois and Marcus Roberts, are trying to preserve the graves of the Holocaust.
We were thinking a 2-3 years challenge. We were thinking there was one mass grave here and the next one 200 kilometers after. But after we saw there was one mass grave per village, so we had to build something.
The preservation of graves is important to honour the memory and the very existence of the prisoners. From a Jewish perspective, honouring the site of the Jewish dead is of the highest importance. Within sort of Jewish religion and culture, there's sort of a policy of leaving no one behind.
Multi-award-winning documentary film producer Lisa Burkhardt Worley shares the story of both Father Debois and Marcus Roberts' work in the new documentary, Their Blood Cries Out.
Wow, that's powerful. With all the documentation and video evidence, it truly is hard to believe that people deny the Holocaust of the Jewish people.
It's hard to believe, definitely. I do want to say that you didn't hear it in the trailer, Theresa, but we have an award-winning song in the documentary called There Are No Words that Renee Rollins, our worship leader for our team, wrote and produced, and it is beautiful. And so that really adds to the documentary as well. She had to put herself in the shoes of those who were victims. And what she could come up with was, there are no words. There are no words to describe it. So I just wanted to say that. And this documentary has already won quite a few film festival awards. And so we're just really pleased that people are recognizing the work that we've done.
Yes, wow, that's wonderful. Well, what was your biggest aha moment during your research and the biggest God moment producing this documentary? Or you could even say the biggest challenge. Take your pick.
Okay, well, there were definitely some challenges. Let me talk, in the documentary, we actually go to Guatemala City, and we interviewed those who are doing, they have a museum of the Holocaust down there. It's part of Father Patrick's group, Yahad in Unum. And so we went down there because they are educating 20,000 students per year about the Holocaust. Well, it was amazing. And I really thought it was important that we should go down there because they are setting the standard for other schools, other places. We should be doing that all around the world. But while we were there, we experienced an earthquake. We were had just finished taping, and we were in the hotel room, and the whole hotel did a shifting, moving back and forth, and we realized we were in an earthquake. It was a 6.2 earthquake, but we were fine. The other challenge that we had was shooting the piece on Alderney, where we interviewed Marcus Roberts. Well, we had to take a little plane from Southampton to Guernsey to Alderney to get there. And we only had a short window to get all this done. Well, we had some delays because of weather the day before. And so we ended up being delayed 4 hours, and we missed our connection. But I said to Marcus, we should just get to Guernsey. It's closer. We should at least get there. So we went there, and we had to pray and hope that we would get a flight, which was booked the next day, to Alderney. Well, sure enough, a friend of Marcus helped us out. He got us on that flight, but not without throwing off a bunch of luggage so that we could fit on the plane and meet the weight requirement, including my bag. My bag was definitely thrown off. I got it back later, but so we made it to Alderney, and I just didn't know if we would or not. But it was a beautiful day. It was the prettiest day there, and we got it all done in a 4-hour time frame. So that was a challenge, but it was also a God thing because it couldn't have gone better. And so we just had to trust that all this was going to work out and that we're going to be able to tell the story there at Alderney about the graves that Marcus has been researching and preserving, and about the number who perished there. A lot of people think that England had nothing to do. They were they were on the Allies' side, but they gave up those islands because they couldn't really protect them that well. And the Germans used the islands for camps.
Wow, wow. Well, I think our audiences would be surprised to know that anytime you're doing something God honoring, whether it's a book, a video, a documentary, or whatever, there are going to be lots of challenges, and there is a price to be paid that you don't even know about, that books could be written about. A whole book could be written about a 30-minute documentary of the ups and downs and the attacks and the good and the bad. So you would be surprised. But Lisa, do you have any idea how many living Holocaust eyewitness accounts and survivors are out there today?
Well, they're diminishing. I do have my friend Rosian, who lives in the Dallas area. I think she was in Boston before that, but from Lithuanian, and she was rescued from a Lithuanian ghetto when she was only 6 years old, and she's 89. So you got to figure that those who are Holocaust survivors who are older than that may not still be with us. And so there aren't too many, and they're starting to diminish. So if we know any Holocaust survivor, if anyone knows and they're listening to this right now, I think we need to talk to them and understand what they went through and just cherish them. And that's what I do with Rosie. And we have lunch like every couple of months. And I just love being with her. She's sharp as a tack, and we just love to talk, and we have so much fun when we're together. So that's very important. So not too many. One of the things that the Dallas Holocaust Museum is doing is that they have preserved the memories of Holocaust survivors from the area. And you can go into a theater. They actually ask them about 1,000 questions. And so you can ask a question it's a hologram. You can ask the question of the Holocaust survivor, and they'll answer the question. They'll be sitting there in a chair as if you're sitting in their living room. It is the most powerful experience for someone like myself who has such an interest in this, and to understand more about what they've been through. And so that I recommend that people go to the Dallas Holocaust Museum just to witness that. So to answer your question, not too many. I know our church has been over and they minister to the Holocaust survivors that are still alive in Israel, but it's been really hard to get to Israel lately because of what happened on October 7th. Not a lot of airlines are flying over there. And so that has really scaled back a lot.
Yes, yes. Well, it's so important, and anyone that's watching and listening to this program today, it's very important while the Holocaust survivors are alive to really get all of this documented in written form, video form. The more documentation, the better, before that generation passes away, with all of that history and all of that wisdom and all of that knowledge that we need to know. And so, Lisa, could you tell me, are there bones and ashes in the graves? Because bones would as well be evidence.
Yeah, there is something about the bones, especially in the Bible. Joseph wanted his bones carried back to the promised land. And on Alderney, there were no crematoriums. There was no extermination center. So they either buried the bodies, or Marcus contends that they could have thrown them off the cliff there into the water. And so if there were graves, and there are graves there, they probably had the bones. And they haven't excavated the graves because in Jewish tradition, you don't dig up a grave. And so you just leave the graves the way they were. Marcus has actually preserve the graves by preventing some construction and cables being strewn across the graves. And so you have to admire the work that he's done to try to just protect those graves. As far as Father Patrick's concerned, with the Eastern Europe graves, these were mass graves. And this is the Holocaust by bullets. When the Nazis would go into a village, they would have the villagers dig a large pit, and they would go grab the the Jewish families out of their homes. They would take them to the pit. They would tell them they were taking them somewhere else. They would have them strip and turn their backs to them, and then they would ambush them with machine guns, and they would fall into the grave. So there were bones in those graves. But again, no extermination center. Those are different stories, like Auschwitz and some of those places like that. They would burn the bodies after they were gassed. So it's really a mixture of both.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know lots of awareness has been brought to past anti-Semitism, but has any progress been made towards solutions preventing hatred and violence toward Jews today? And if so, please share a couple of solutions with the audiences.
Yeah, Theresa, I'm seeing a lot more pro-Israel, pro-Jew organizations. There's one called Combat Antisemitism that's out there. I see a lot of that, but anti-Semitism is rising on one side, and then these new organizations are rising on the other. I just experienced something very powerful. I went to an Israel Advocacy Day in Washington, D.C., where we met with U.S. representatives and senators to advocate for Israel, advocate for the Jewish people, to fight anti-Semitism, to also protect the land. We pitched that we should be disarming Iran so that Israel is safe. And so that was a real powerful thing put on by a group called Eagle's Wings. They pay for pastors to go to Israel, pastors who might not be able to afford a trip to Israel. They pay for that. And then another group, Christian Leaders, American Christian Leaders for Israel, they also put that on. And so I was so pleased to be a part of it and to actually meet with lawmakers to fight this hatred. And so I think that we need to petition our congressmen, our senators, and tell them what we think, and say, you need to honor Israel, because what does God say in his word? If you bless Israel, I'll bless you. We don't do it for that reason, but it's a promise in the word. And so we need to fight it in so many different ways. We do it ourselves through our documentaries. We're also about to create some anti-Semitism curriculum to just really talk about the history of anti-Semitism, current day anti-Semitism. We're going to be doing some video curriculum that you'll be able to find on a website that we've created called A Bridge of Love. It's abridgeoflove.com. We also have a Facebook page that our team member Onyx Conklin manages, and she puts out positive stories about the Jewish people instead of the hatred. We're trying to combat it in our own way. And there are a lot of organizations doing that. ISGAP is another example of that. The scholars from around the world get together and they discuss what's going on, and they discuss how they can teach it in the schools, teach against anti-Semitism in the schools. And so there are things happening, but we still have a 380% increase in anti-Semitism in this country since October 7th, 2023.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. So it would be beneficial, as you said, to get this into the schools, this history, this documentation into the schools, and most especially into our universities. Speaking of our universities, from a biblical worldview perspective, what do you think was behind the horrific attack on Jews on October 7, 2023, when Hamas invaded Gaza? And does Israel have a right to defend itself?
Absolutely, they have a right to defend themselves. And I know it's been twisted, and Israel's they're being accused of genocide. But if you knew the details about what happened on October 7th, you think, yeah, they've got every right to defend themselves. I heard a story recently. First of all, I want to go back up a little bit. I read the Hamas charter. The Hamas charter basically says to kill the Jews. They hate the Jews. They want all the land. They don't want a two-state solution. They want the whole land. And so they want to eradicate Israel and eradicate the Jewish people. There's no compromise there. And so I heard a recent testimony, and I won't give her name because it's her story, but she was living in England, and her father was having surgery October 8th. And so she went back home to take care of her dad, and Her sibling was there. Her son, who serves in the IDF, was there, and they found that when they realized there was an attack, they went into the bunkers. They didn't know the extent of the attack, and so they were in the bunkers in their shelters when their dad decided to go out and watch the news to see what was going on. And sure enough, right when he was in his chair watching the news, Hamas came over, they saw him, and they shot him dead in cold blood right there in his chair. Not only were there stories like that, but they put babies in ovens, they cut people in half, they violated women sexually, just over and over. And so this was a horrific, evil crime that day. And I think Israel has every right to protect themselves. What if somebody came in to the United States, maybe through Mexico or someplace else? What if they came in and they pulled those kinds of stunts? Do you think the U.S. would not go back in and pummel them and seek retribution? No, they would. Israel has every right to defend themselves, because if they regroup, they're going to just go back and do the same thing again, because again, it's in their charter to kill the Jews. It's in their charter to take the land. And so this is happening. It's still, it's my understanding there might be some Hamas presence in the United States. So we just have to educate people about this, and we have to realize that that day was full of evil. It was horrific. And we still don't have all the hostages back. We still don't. And who knows what kind of condition they're in.
Yeah. Yes, it's very tragic. And, just like there's people out there that deny the Holocaust, I'm afraid there's people out there that deny this Hamas attack on Israel as well, and that they did what they did. However, there's been video and audio where people can see it with their own eyes. It'd be so hard to see for anyone, not just the Jewish people, but anyone. So, but Lisa, if people want to know when, where, and how racism began, they merely need to read the Bible. It's all there,
Yes.
documenting past experiences with hatred, violence, and racism towards Jews, God's chosen people. And not only does it share past experiences of hate toward the Jews, but it also foretells of future violence and a final war surrounding Israel. So anti-Semitism is truly an important issue, and I want to thank you for having the courage to share your documentaries and insights with the world. Where do you find this source of strength to do this?
Well, I spend every morning with God, with the Lord. I worship, I read the Bible, I pray, and I really feel like Philippians 4:13 is my life verse. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. These documentaries were definitely directed by the Lord, because he cares about his people. He cares about what the Bible calls the chosen ones. They are his treasure. They're the apple of his eye. And so he wants the word to get out. He wants to fight anti-Semitism as much as I do. I got a prophetic word from someone once, and he said, Lisa, the Lord has downloaded his heart for Israel and his people into your heart. And it's very important during these last days, which you talked about, Theresa. And so I'm happy to carry this passion and this love of the Jewish people. My father was Jewish, and I come by this naturally, but I just have a heart to help in any way that I can. I know what I do is just small compared to what can be done, but I've got to do my part, because I have to answer one day for my life that I've led. And I have to answer, did I follow God's instructions to create documentaries and to help his people? And if I didn't, I would be very ashamed.
Awesome. Well, we're going to move to another topic now, because I want to be sure to talk and discuss your treasure, your newest award-winning 52-week devotional. Tell us more about that and where people can get a copy.
It's a wonderful book. I partnered with one of our team members from Pearls of Promise, Lane Jordan Burdett, who's an award-winning journalist herself, award-winning writer. She has written a number of books, and we just partnered on this. She wrote over 100, I wrote over 100, and we have some of our team members also in the book. And we feel it's anointed. We feel that all of these devotions were Holy Spirit inspired. And everybody, all the reviews we've received have been great. People are loving it. And we just won a huge award, a Next Generation Indie Book Award for Best Christian Nonfiction Book. I've placed in that. I've been a finalist, but never won. And so these are people that have had lots of experience in traditional publishing. So to win that award meant a lot to us because it tells us this is a quality book. It is quality writing. And so we feel like people are just inspired by what is written on those pages, mainly because the Lord just used us as conduits to write the devotional.
Awesome. Well, tell people where they can go find your website to look at all the many projects that you do and to contact you.
Sure. Our website is pearlsofpromiseministries.com. You can contact us at info@pearlsofpromiseministries.com. I would love to hear from you. Of course, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on X. And our YouTube channel's at Pearls of Promise Ministries. And so you'll find everything there. All of our television shows, all of our radio, all of our documentaries are there. And then, of course, abridgeoflove.com. I know it's a lot to remember, but that is where we're going to start parking all of our work to fight anti-Semitism.
That's awesome, Dr. Lisa. Awesome so much. Well, just take about 30 seconds and tell the people what to be watching for updates that are coming really soon.
Okay, sure. Well, first of all, we're working on this anti-Semitism curriculum right now. And so you'll be finding that by the summer, you'll be seeing that on our bridgeoflove.com. We're working on another book, and it's called Broken Mothers, Having God's Compassion for Your Own Mom. My mom was a broken mom, and I really feel like there are a lot of mother wounds out there. So we want to help people with those mother wounds and help people understand how to forgive their broken mothers. And so that's going to be coming out hopefully by the end of the year.
Awesome. And what great issues to address and bring some healing and inspiration to and blessings to. So thank you, Dr. Lisa, for coming and sharing your timely message and your newest projects with us. I know you gave our audience a lot to think about. We wish you God's continued guidance, wisdom, and protection in all your ministry endeavors.
Thank you, Theresa. It's been a pleasure.
Friends, let's find some time to examine our hearts and see if there's any racism or hatred toward others that we need to address. God's ready to cleanse us and replace these negative thoughts with His pure and righteous love. And remember, the scriptures instruct us to pray for the peace of Jerusalem in Psalms 122:6. And this declares that those who love Israel and God's chosen people will prosper. Do you want to prosper? Everyone wants to prosper these days. You just heard a promise how to prosper. Act upon it. God bless and keep you is our prayer.
Thanks for joining us. To find out more about Theresa and where the Time with Theresa Around the World TV and radio podcasts are streaming, visit TheresaWestbrook.com. For prayer, guests, and sponsorship opportunities, contact Theresa today. We look forward to hearing from you.